Okay, Ms. Celeste, tell us a little bit about yourself, how this project came to be, where you work, anything.
Okay, sure. So my name is Erika Celeste, and I have been in the media of one nature or another for about 30 years now. I have done everything from work at Channel 21 in Fort Wayne as a afternoon assignment editor and dispatcher, sending everybody out to get their stories, to being a journalist and reporter. I moved up the ladder. I've worked at the international level with a place called Voice of America, which is sort of like an international CNN. So I've gotten to go to all sorts of different countries like Hong Kong and the UK and down to Peru and Puerto Rico. And so I've had a lot of fun traveling all over the world, being basically a journalist and, you know, first we did with just radio and then we did it with TV. I've also worked as the executive editor of a publishing company and run about 7 different magazines. Places you might know of here that I've worked with are National Public Radio, or NPR. I've also written about 18 different books, and let's see, what else have I done? I've done a lot of stuff. So anyway, I worked with Business Insider a lot lately. One of my last gigs this summer was I worked with CNN, and that was a little different than I'd ever done before, but I was kind of local, and they needed somebody to cover the marathon LPGA golf tournament in Toledo. So I got to go hang out with all sorts of really interesting international Olympic golf champions and stuff, so that's kind of cool, different than I'm used to. But so I get to get around a lot, and I do a lot of freelancing still and a lot of work with different people at the national and international level. Working, usually I'm a videographer, sometimes a field producer, sometimes still a journalist and a writer. So I know pretty much all aspects. The reason I'm here to talk to you guys today is because about 4 years ago, I was on my way into work one day, and I was a producer at the time for a public broadcasting channel over in South Bend. And it was the anniversary of the Stonewall Jackson shooting. You guys know what that is? Do you remember that, or remember hearing about any of that? Okay, so basically what happened was somebody came into a school down in Florida, and it was I don't remember if he was a student or a former student, but he basically went in and massacred a school and killed a lot of people. And the interesting thing about Stonewall Jackson is that instead of when a tragedy like that happens, lots of times people become very cut off and remote. But the Stonewall Jackson students became very, very vocal about what had happened to them. And they were very good about going out into the media and talking about what happened to them and wanting people to know what had happened and wanting to, exact change from that. They didn't want things to stay the same. And one of the big things that they talked about at the time was, this has happened to us and everybody around us, all the adults around us, they've given us their thoughts, their prayers, but everybody wants to make this change and help fix this for us, but nobody's bothering to ask us what we want or how we feel about it. And so the big thing, their message was, on the radio that morning was, we really need a platform for change. We need a platform to tell our stories, and there's no really good platform to tell our stories. And as I was driving, I thought, well, I've got a platform to help people tell their stories and hear what teenagers have to say. Why don't I give them a platform? And so that's kind of how the initial idea was born, to start a show that was going to be written, produced, edited, acted, reported by teens, by students. And so I ended up starting a nonprofit, which is called TBH. And these days I work with, it kind of varies each year, we kind of slide in and out, but mostly around northern Indiana, but we work with about 15 different schools. And each of the schools works on their own episode that fits under a specific category. So this year it's going to be Americana is going to be our category. But so each school works on their own episode, and they can produce it however we want to, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then each of those episodes becomes one of a series. And then that series airs on public broadcasting. And the really exciting thing that we're working on this year is that it used to just be on public broadcasting here locally. But we are working on trying to get it not only statewide, but public broadcasting every year releases what they call a catalog. And so any public broadcasting station all over the entire country has access to that catalog, and they can choose shows from that catalog to use. And so we are going to be getting into that catalog this year, and hopefully some other stations around the country will pick us up too. And so that means that you guys have the chance to not only be on TV, but this is a great resume builder. This is something that you can actually say in the future. I've had this experience, and my show is not just aired on a cable access or a local high school channel, which is all great experience and important stuff, but my show is actually aired on a TV station and possibly gone national. So that's where we're at, and that's what TBH does. So with that in mind, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Teen Issues was the year. See, we did this before COVID started. Actually, we did it the year COVID became a big thing. But that year we did Teen Issues, and Southside did child abuse. So that was the issue that was concentrated on here. And everybody did a very creative ideas, some very good kind of, I would call them maybe skits were done. There were some really important, powerful interviews that some adults saw that were like, wow, that's kind of some heavy stuff. So it was very impactful, very, very good stuff came out of here. And I think things that, the other thing is that because this is not only, it airs on PBS, but after it airs on PBS here, it also is on the internet. So I send out an email to all Indiana schools so that different classes, maybe it's a social studies class, or I don't know if they do philosophy here, but any kind of social sciences class, sometimes even counselors, churches, other groups may pick out one episode and use it for whatever they're teaching. So your peers around the state will also see you, and hopefully this will be helpful to them. This year, because we did some last year, but I only had about 4 schools last year because of the fact of COVID and all the big problems with that. And so there were only a certain number of schools I was allowed into, or that we could make it work after school. So this year we're back, and I'm very excited to do, this is technically the 4th year, but really we've only had 3 good series at this point, or this will be the 3rd series because of the COVID interruption. So what I'd like to do this year is what I call Tales of Americana. And kind of the idea behind that is we have been in this quarantine. We're all sick and tired of it. We're all bogged down with it. And I think before, I kind of look at life now as like there was before quarantine and now there's quarantine and COVID and all this stuff. And I think that possibly before quarantine, at least I know it's true for me and my family, there were a lot of things we took for granted. There were a lot of things that we wish we could do now, or we would just like to have, or really look forward to doing, or can't wait to be able to do again. And so this year I'd like to really concentrate on some of those different things. So Tales of Americana is an idea I got from, I used to work that beat when I was at Voice of America. And Voice of America, to give you a little bit of background, is it was started in, I think, the 1940s. But it was run by the U.S. federal government. It was our anti-propaganda tool to go behind the Iron Curtain, to go behind several different countries that at the time didn't allow free press. So we're talking like countries like maybe Russia, where they wouldn't allow anything American or anything in that was, our country. And other countries, maybe North Korea, places like that, where the government very much controls not only the news, but what gets out. And to this day, even, controls the internet, controls what's going on. And so their people only get a certain brand of information that their government puts out. And so what the US government was trying to do at the time was teach other countries and give them an example of like what America's like. But instead of just doing things like newscasts and like kind of hard news or straight news, what they did was they wanted to give people a flavor, a feeling of what American life is like. So they wanted to kind of go behind the scenes. They wanted to show like kind of all the unique things that we do here that make us, you know, America. The melting pot, the foods, the sports, the music, the whatever it is, to expose people to some of those other things that, you know, they knew rightly that their, you know, governments were not letting them know about, because, you know, we were seen as just the evil big bad guys that were, you know, trying to destroy them. So the whole idea was we're going to do this thing where we are going to show them all the other things about us, basically our culture. And so the first thing they did was they had these flyover planes, and they would broadcast on just the radio because it was the 40s, but they had these flyover airplanes, and on the airplanes that would fly over, only people with ham radios could pick up the signal. And when they picked up the signal, that signal would change every couple days because they didn't want to get caught and get blocked or banned by that government of whatever country they were in, flying over. So, and then it became, you know, just like any other TV station, where it became a full-fledged TV station and started doing a lot more, started doing a little bit heavier, harder news. They still do a lot of feature things, but so now it's seen in, I believe, about 52 different countries, 52 different languages, more than 52 different countries, 52 different languages, all over the world. If you go to any air base, you'll be able, or you know, military base, you'll be able to see it. All of our military overseas gets to see it. A lot of countries still get it, but it's just mainstream. When I was in Hong Kong, for instance, it was just right there as one of the regular TV channels you'd flip to. And you know, you can get it here like on like some satellite stations, but certainly when I'm back home in DC, I can see it. It's just they're on as one of our channel choices. So the idea today is, since we want to kind of celebrate all those things that we love and miss and really like, we have to pick one category within that to kind of concentrate on. And then that category, whatever it is, I'll give you the example of my South Bend schools. They decided that they're the only ones who have picked so far, so you guys are kind of at the top of the food chain when it comes to coming up with your idea and getting your idea. They picked travel. Travel is going to be their category because they really are missing traveling all over the place. So they'll be doing anything from interviews on travel to maybe doing some kind of travel pieces. Maybe they'll go, you know, they're very close to Chicago. They'll probably end up over there. They'll do some kind of quick day trips. They'll probably have somebody they love music videos, so I assume someone will probably end up coming up with some kind of music video that they'll do. They may do a small play or skit. So they can do anything from interviews to how-tos to man on the street to maybe there'll be a hard news piece that'll, you know, they could even say go to a train yard and learn all about the trains that go through, you know, that kind of stuff. So with that said, we need to find a category. Things, you know, so it could be like American food. It could be music. We have tons of music here. It could be sports that are, you know, specific to America. It could be history. It could be, you know, scientific discoveries that are being made here. It could be just about anything that you guys think is important that you would like to concentrate on and feel that we could make into a category that could then be used to do any kind of, you know, anything that occurs to you and that you guys think would be something, you know, interesting to tackle. So I'm not sure now that we have video how we go about this, but I guess the next thing to do is to just start thinking about ideas and throwing them out. We kind of brainstorm an idea till we figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah, and I think that it really came at a great time. Because I pitched this on Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm really proud of it. We've already got invited up into groups,
Uh-huh.
about 3 or 4.
Okay.
We're kind of brainstorming the next couple days, and we're going to start kind of going into production later on next week,
Okay.
after Labor Day. And we have some really cool things that they kind of pitched to me,
Okay.
including like talking to veterans here at the building.
Oh, that would be
Veterans
neat.
at home that's, you know, obviously uniquely American.
Mm-hmm.
One person's going to do a really funny fake news broadcast.
Okay.
It'll be more American, right?
Of course.
One person loves culinary stuff, so they want to do like a Food Network kind of mini cooking show.
Okay.
French fries.
Okay.
Anything from going around to doing interviews, doing a skit.
Right.
Those are very popular.
Right.
And some people are just still trying to brainstorm right now at this point.
Okay, so the idea is that Southside has to have one category, so we have to pick, because then, so Riley is doing travel, so everybody has to do something related to travel. So that's going to be the head category for them and under Americana. So we have to pick something like one category that you can do all sorts of, like man on the street or music or whatever. So like if you picked food, you'd have maybe do a cooking show. Maybe you talk to people about their favorite foods. You'd maybe, do music. Yeah, we can't be that diverse because everybody's going to get a category. When we go to Homestead and Lures and everybody else, we have to get one category that's going to work for everybody.
If we pick, the interview style, we can go ahead and check that off the list, and Dwayne can't do that. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, so if you picked...
Like if we did like Man on the Street or interviews.
Oh, no. Oh, so you can, our category is going to be like, say if we picked food. You can do Man on the Street, you can do whatever you want, but it has to stay under the food category. So like you might have someone who'd be interviewed on all the kinds of food that, you might do Man on the Street and ask people, what's your favorite food or whatever.
Right.
Then you might do an interview with, I don't know, a chef. Then you might do like, maybe somebody makes up a scene about, their favorite meal or, and they act out a scene.
Okay.
Then so it's just so that the main category is the same. And then under that, you can do anything you want to.
Okay.
It could be a whole half hour, like screenplay, for instance, if you wanted to.
Right.
I mean, I don't expect that, but, or you could do like, all the news that you do when you do your news segment would have to be food related somehow, whether it's production or manufacture or making
I'm
of.
glad you came and told me that, because I don't
Yeah.
think that was made exceptionally clear.
Okay.
It was a little bit too broad.
Okay,
So now that we have something a little more
Right.
definitive to work with.
right.
So we're going to go ahead and refine that
Right.
in the next couple of days.
Okay,
And I think what I do, instead of putting this on camera,
Okay.
I'm going to show them those links. If you get me, like,
Right.
one of them was the endangered species.
Right,
butterflies,
right.
that's really cool.
Mhm.
And show you how that hard news story would look like, the B-roll and voiceover and things like that. That's really cool. And then, I want you to resend me that link for the YouTube.
Okay.
Because that didn't work for some reason.
oh, okay, I'll
I tried
go look at
And
it.
they can see what we did for child abuse.
Okay.
I don't have those individual pieces. I don't have them all together.
Okay, I will do that again. Yeah, I noticed that it wasn't working through our website today, but it probably works through YouTube, so I'll just
Yeah.
figure out why it wasn't linking properly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, so and then like things that I will want you to think about as you start to work on your pieces is, say for instance, if you do an interview, make sure that you're doing really well with, like if it's a, like say, man on the street type interview where you have to have a mic, that make sure that when you're asking your question, you're holding the mic toward you and then you're holding it toward them.
Yeah.
Just things like paying attention to what's going on. If you're talking about something, really serious, make sure that you're not like giggling while you're talking about it. Just try to like be really, as you remember, this is going to go on, and at least the whole city, very likely the whole state is going to see this and potentially more. So we want to be as professional as possible when we do our work.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. Now, I told the guys, the students right before you got here, that I was going to open up the questions. I think
Sure.
it's fairly thorough. You answered a lot of our questions, but if anybody has anything in particular or specific, I really would appreciate it. I think Ms. Celeste could do a good job of answering that. And then, of course, I have 160 other students that are going to be watching this, and they probably have the same question. And that will be, you just kill two birds with one stone there. So does anybody have anything specific to ask about this project, the expert right here, before we wrap it up?
Or anything about media in general, if I
Right.
can answer it. So.
Wow.
Oh my.
Some of them just got here, they're just trying to wake up.
Yeah.
Anybody has any questions?
So the best thing I always say, get more than less, because the more you get, the more footage you get, the better you have to work with. Yes?
Yes, right.
I'm sorry.
So, she said this is a not-for-profit.
Yeah, we're
So this is for
non-for-profit.
TBH
Yes.
is a not-for-profit.
This is
Yeah.
educational.
She has other means of revenue, for sure.
Right, yes, so we work through grants. One of our biggest contributors is through the Indiana Arts Commission, which is funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, so that's a pretty big deal. But yeah, this is all about getting the experience and gathering that, the kind of like getting our education, getting the experience, so that we have the great tools to, when we get out into the world, for people to say, oh, you know, why should I hire you? Or why shouldn't you? Could say, well, I've already done these things, which is, might not seem like a big deal now. I know graduation seems a really long way off, but it will be a huge help once you get to that point.
Absolutely. Great question, buddy. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any questions for her in particular, and about journalism or about this project? Somebody asked over here, Bumble, do you have any kids?
I do have kids. I have 4 kids, actually. I have 2 biological children who are already adults. And then I have 2 kids. I've been a foster mom for a long time, so I actually fostered for 16 different kids. I've adopted 2 of them. I have a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Wow.
Yep.
It's quite the age difference.
Yeah. So yeah, my oldest is 26, my youngest is 1.
You run the gamut there.
Oh, I have a really interesting, fun story to tell you. So one of the kids that I had for a couple of years, I had him for about 2.5 years. Really sweet kid, just loved the heck out of him, had hoped to adopt him. And then at the last minute, some complications came up that it wasn't possible. And he went away. He actually moved down to Fort Wayne for a while and lived there. And I tried to keep track of him as best we can. But once you're in the foster system and you've been moved on, lots of times the old foster parents aren't allowed to know where he went. I walked into South Bend last year, did not know, I mean, I'd worked with them before. He'd actually been in the morning class, and I was working with the afternoon class. And I happened to come to the morning class last year, and we're all covered up with masks, and it's been 6 years. And we were kind of going around the room introducing ourselves, and all of a sudden he said his name, and I kind of did a double take, and I was like, you know, he's 17 years old now. I saw him when he was 11 last. And he saw me, and it was pretty cool, and I get to work with him almost every day. So that's been really, really wonderful to meet him and see that he's been adopted.
It's like fate.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have any last minute questions for Miss Celeste before she takes off? All right, Isaac, go ahead and cut it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.